America is being consumed by selfishness and greed, and there will be nothing left unless we put a stop to it. May 29th, 2014, on the People's Radio.
The People's Radio is an experimental, technocratic media format for the working class. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the People's Radio are not necessarily the thoughts and opinions of Organizing for Humanity, of the People's Radio, or of anyone else. Viewer discretion is advised.
America, it is time we had a serious discussion. Many of my listeners probably know how frustrating it is to try and talk to creationists. Surely by now, being on the internet, you've probably come across one, or two, or many, reading the delusional rantings of Ken Ham at Answers in Genesis, or watching the delusional YouTube videos of creationists trying to explain away scientific facts. It's beyond frustrating. Sam Harris said it best. You cannot use reason and logic to talk to those who did not use reason and logic to come to their positions to begin with. And such it is in America now with firearms. That's right. I want to talk about firearms. There's been another mass shooting. Just one of many. One of many that will still continue to happen. And that saddens me. And it should sadden you. Before we start talking about guns, I want you, the listener, to have full disclosure of where I come from on this issue. I'm an Alabama boy, born and raised in the state of Alabama. My father was a coal miner. When I was very little, I have a lot of country in me. I have a lot of rural southern living as part of my past. I grew up around guns. I grew up using guns. I grew up firing guns as a tradition on Thanksgiving. For me in my childhood, firearms was just as American as apple pie. Just as part of my life and intrinsically part of my upbringing as Saturday morning cartoons. Firearms was always there. They were always around. And my father taught me to be responsible with them, to respect them, and to always treat them as though they were loaded. Because I was given a proper education and upbringing around firearms, I never had an accident. I never accidentally shot a friend of mine. I never went into my dad's room and played with it. I was taught responsibility when it comes to guns. I was an NRA member for years of my life, and I supported guns fully and completely. And you rewind the clock just 10 years or so, and you would have heard me espousing the opinions of a gun supporter. You would have heard me say over and over and over again, I need a gun to protect myself. I need a gun to protect my home, my family, my material possessions. Because you never know when an intruder will come into your house. You need to be ready to protect yourself. These were my words just years ago. I started to see things differently, though. And I started to realize that even though I was responsible with a gun, and I had a proper upbringing that taught me about guns, that does not necessarily mean that everyone is responsible with guns. I'm sure there are those out there that were not given proper gun safety training. And those people are going to be irresponsible with guns. And I started to ask myself, do we really want to just allow them to walk into a gun store or a Walmart or a gun show and purchase semi-automatic rifles? Do we really want these uneducated people who do not have a gun background to just be able to get their hands on a 9mm with a 12-round clip? Do we really want people who suffer from depression and mental illness and who are suicidal to just be able to get a gun at will? These are tough questions. These are hard questions. Because as a gun supporter, I would tell you, we have the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was written by the Founding Fathers, and the Founding Fathers were prophets. They were like holy men to this country. They wrote a sacred, holy document. And that document should not be changed or infringed upon. The Second Amendment grants me a right to a gun. But as I thought about it more, and as I got older, and as I turned on the TV, every single day, there was another shooting and another shooting and another shooting and another shooting. I even started to question that. Because the Founding Fathers wrote the Second Amendment when we had one-shot muskets. And it made sense back then. The way that they lived back then. On their homesteads, on their farms. The fact that almost every able-bodied male was part of a militia of some form or another. And they would be called up and conscripted to, fight off foreign threats, such as the Redcoats. Sometimes they would have to fight Indians. It made sense to give everybody the right to this contraption that can help you hunt, can help you defend yourself and your country. It made sense. But now, we live in a society where for $300 you can buy a tool that can fire 12 rounds, pow, 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 pow. With little to no effort. There's no reloading. There's no stopping to put black powder in it. They are very deadly devices. And we allow anyone with no training, with no background in guns, to just acquire them at will, as long as they have the money. And it's gotten so bad that there are so many guns in our society now that the people who don't have money, the criminals, the lawbreakers, the thugs of our society, can just acquire guns because they're basically just laying around everywhere. I don't think this is what the Founding Fathers had in mind. And then, as I'm thinking these thoughts, Sandy Hook happened. Sandy Hook. For those of you who don't know, a maniac, a monster, took an AR-15 to an elementary school where he, without emotion, cold, heartless, he walked into the elementary school, walked into a classroom, and began shooting children 5, 6, 7 years old indiscriminately. If you read the report of what happened that day, it will chill you to your core. He walked into classrooms where a teacher had all of her children huddled in a corner, and she was shielding them with her body. And he raised the gun and unloaded the entire clip, filling the teacher and the children just full of holes. And then he reloaded, walked to the next classroom, and started doing it again. That was a legally purchased firearm. We have a problem. We have a problem. We are beyond the point of ignoring it because we know that ignoring it does not help. We have been ignoring this problem. We have been ignoring this problem, and it does not help. We just had another shooting in California. Another monster took innocent lives. And as long as monsters like that can get their hands on guns, America, we have a problem. Now I'm going to introduce you to this monster. This despicable, disgusting waste of a human being. This person had diagnosed mental illnesses, multiple mental illnesses that had been diagnosed by professionals. He was seeing therapists to try to work on his mental illness and his mental problems. He had a history of being prescribed psychoactive drugs, psychotropic drugs. He had a history of being prescribed antidepressants and refusing to take his medication. He had a history of mental illness. He had a history of refusing to take his medication and refusing to go to therapy. And he was able to buy 3 guns, no problems, no questions asked, no delay. Here's your money. Here's the gun. You got it. You got it, mental illness person. You got it, monster with a mental illness. Here's a gun. Have fun with a gun. What could possibly go wrong? I'm going to introduce you to this monster.
On the day of retribution, I am going to enter the hottest sorority house of UCSB. And I will slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up, blonde slut I see inside there. All those girls that I've desired so much, they would have all rejected me and looked down upon me as an inferior man if I ever made a sexual advance towards them, while they throw themselves at these obnoxious brutes. I'll take great pleasure in slaughtering all of you. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Yes. After I've annihilated every single girl in the sorority house, I'll take to the streets of Isla Vista and slay every single person I see there. All those popular kids who live such lives of hedonistic pleasure while I've had to rot in loneliness for all these years. They've all looked down upon me every time I tried to go out and join them. They've all treated me like a mouse. Well, now I will be a god compared to you. You will all be animals. You are animals, and I will slaughter you like animals. I'll be a god, exacting my retribution on all those who deserve it. And you do deserve it, just for the crime of living a better life than me. All you popular kids, you've never accepted me, and now you'll all pay for it.
That monster with a history of mental illness was allowed to just walk into a gun store and purchase firearms and hundreds of rounds of ammunition without anyone saying anything, without any government rule or law preventing it, without any background check stopping it. America, you have a serious problem.
I've written out a statement that was prepared by the family. Our son Christopher Martinez and 6 others are dead. Our family has a message for every parent out there. You don't think it'll happen to your child until it does. Chris was a really great kid. Ask anyone who knew him. His death has left our family lost and broken. Why did Chris die? Chris died because of craven, irresponsible politicians and the NRA. They talk about gun rights. What about Chris's right to live? When will this insanity stop? When will enough people say, stop this madness? We don't have to live like this. Too many have died. We should say to ourselves, not one more. Thank you. That's it.
20-year-old Christopher Martinez. He was in the deli when bullets came flying in. Since then, his father, Richard, has been outspoken. He has been very emotional about the gun laws and politicians he says are responsible for repeated violence. CNN's Kyung La had an opportunity to sit down with Mr. Martinez, who was incredibly emotional.
He's our only child. He died on Friday. I'm 61 years old now. I'll never have another child. He's gone. So the reason I'm doing this right now is to try to see if we can do anything to make my son's death mean something, because that's all we've got. He was articulate, determined, nice, and tough. If there's all these things in the media about the shooter and there's nothing about the victims, then it sends the wrong message. And that people need to understand that real people died here. And they need to know, put faces and names and histories to the people who died to make it real for them. We're all proud to be Americans. But what kind of a message does it send to the world when we have such a rudderless bunch of idiots in government? I can't tell you how angry I am. It's just awful. And no parent should have to go through this. No parent. To have a kid die because in this kind of a situation, what has changed? Have we learned nothing? These things are going to continue until somebody does something. So where the hell is the leadership? Where the hell is these people we elect to Congress that we spend so much money on? These people are getting rich sitting in Congress. And what do? They don't take care of our kids. My kid died because nobody responded to what occurred at Sandy Hook. Those parents lost little kids. It's bad enough that I lost my 20-year-old, but I had 20 years with my son. That's all I ever have. But those people lost their children at 6 and 7 years old. How do you think they feel? And who's talking to them now? Who's doing anything for them now? Who is standing up for those kids that died back then in an elementary school? Why wasn't something done? It's outrageous.
It is outrageous. It is outrageous we live in such a narcissistic, selfish society, and our children must dodge bullets in order to go to school. Do you want to know how bad it is? Do you want to know how bad it has gotten? Joe the plumber, a man who is not a plumber, but his claim to fame was that he lied and said he was a plumber and that he was going to buy a plumbing business, and those were lies, has penned an open letter in response to this massacre. By Joe the plumber. I'm not talking here about 3 tragic murders Roger committed by stabbing before his driving and shooting spree. I speak now only to the families of the gunshot victims in Santa Barbara. It's a tragedy. I'm sorry you lost your child. I myself have a son and daughter, and the one thing I never want to go through is what you are going through now. But, as harsh as this sounds, your dead kids don't trump my constitutional rights. What kind of a person would say something like that? What kind of a selfish, narcissistic asshole would say something like that to parents who just lost their child? It has gotten bad. It has gotten very bad in America. We have these gun supporters that have gone beyond logic and reason. They are now creationists with guns. They have rejected empirical science. They have rejected logic. They have rejected the statistics. They have rejected the numbers. And they are now substituting their own bullshit ideology. If you're a gun owner listening to me now, you comment on this video on YouTube and you say publicly that you supported the right of that monster to get a gun. Say it publicly. The truth is, if you have any sense of self-worth, if you have any sense of self-respect and decency inside of you, you know as well as I know that monster should never have gotten a gun. You know that not everyone should have a right to a gun. It is an irresponsible thing to do. It is an irresponsible thing for a society to do, to just allow anyone to have a firearm. This is despicable. And you might be asking yourself, why hasn't the politicians done anything? After Sandy Hook, 90% of Americans supported stricter gun control legislation. 90%. And I'd like to think that even in a pretend democracy, the people would get what they want some of the time, wouldn't you? Over 75% of NRA members wanted stronger gun legislation after Sandy Hook. But we didn't get it. We didn't get it. The 90% was drowned out by this fringe group of gun fanatics. They have left reason behind and they are now worshiping their gun as though it were a religion. How bad has it gotten in America? I'll tell you. Republicans say no to CDC gun violence research. This is from ProRepublica.org. After the Sandy Hook school shooting, Representative Jack Kingston was one of a few congressional Republicans who expressed a willingness to reconsider the need for gun control laws. Put guns on the table, also put video games on the table, put mental health on the table, he said less than a week after the Newtown shootings. He told a local TV station that he wanted to see more research done to understand mass shootings. Let's let the data lead rather than our political opinions. My God, that sounds reasonable. There's a reason why we have experts. There's a reason why we have scientists. There is a reason why we research these things. Let's continue with the article. For nearly 20 years, Congress has pushed the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to steer clear of firearms research. As chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee that traditionally sets CDC funding, Kingston has been in a position to change that. Soon after Sandy Hook, Kingston said that he had spoken to the head of the agency. I think we can find some common ground. More than a year later, as Kingston competes in a crowded Republican primary race for a U.S. Senate seat, the congressman is no longer talking about common ground. In a statement to ProPublica, Kingston said he would oppose a proposal from President Obama for $10 million in CDC gun research funding. The president's request to fund propaganda for his gun-grabbing initiatives through the CDC will not be included in the 2015 appropriations bill, Kingston said. He changed his mind. Completely did a 180. Completely did a 180. He, after Sandy Hook, realized that the CDC should be researching guns. But now, suddenly, that it's become a reality. Oh no, we can't have that. We can't have that. Do you know why? When the CDC has looked into this into the past, their research has concluded that more guns and more availability of guns is a problem, and it contributes to mass shootings. Just use common sense, people! They don't have these mass shootings at this high frequency rate in other developed countries. You cannot find a first world country on the planet. You cannot find a developed country on the planet. You cannot find an industrialized country on this planet that has the mass shootings and the gun homicide rates that we have. You know why? They all have gun control legislation. They all have gun control laws. They all have stricter control on guns. It's the elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about. This is despicable. This is disgusting. How did we let it get like this? We live inside a war zone. Our children must dodge bullets to go to school. Richard Martinez's son was just going to a convenience store to buy some soda and a snack. You can't even be innocent in America anymore, going about your daily life without dodging bullets. That's sickening. It's heart-wrenching. And we must organize. Don't clutch your gun thinking your gun will save you. Because if you're standing in a convenience store waiting to pay for your soda and snack, you don't have your gun out at the ready. You can't shoot the bullets out of the air before the bullet hits you. You are not God. You cannot predict everything that will happen in the future. You cannot constantly be on guard. You cannot constantly be ready to jump and dodge a bullet and then return fire. The whole notion of good guys with guns doesn't work because bad guys with guns strike first. The solution is to not let bad guys get guns. Period. And don't you listen to the people who say, oh, the bad guys will always get guns, because it doesn't happen in other countries. And when they try to tell you, oh, but in other countries they don't have the gun culture that we do, that's horseshit. Australia was a country that had a long history of gun culture. And after an elementary school shooting, sound familiar? The politicians came together and they knew that this was going to be an unpopular decision. They knew that the Australian people were going to hate them and were going to vote them out of office for passing gun control, but they did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. It was the moral thing to do. Don't tell me that we cannot solve this problem. Other countries have solved this problem. Japan basically has a gun homicide rate of 0 per year. This is despicable. Have you ever seen what the gun deaths in America look like in a visual representation? A lot of people don't understand just how bad it has gotten and just how many gun deaths there are. There are a lot. There are thousands. There are thousands. I live in Florida. I can't even go with my wife to the movie theater without thinking that some retired cop is going to shoot me for looking at my cell phone. They want to talk about gun rights. What about our rights to live in a society that does not allow monsters, killers to get guns?
All right, over here at Chili's. We're gonna do a little open carry at Chili's, guys. Got my BZ58.
How you doing, guys?
All right, all right.
We're hungry. Hungry. How many?
Like 10? 8? 8.
8? What are they? Are they Neymar or what?
You heard of the second number, right?
I've heard of it, yes I have. I need to see what our policy is.
Okay.
Let me check on that. I'll get right back with you. You're going to have 8, you said?
Yeah.
Just a moment.
You want a flyer?
This is Texas retards.
I'm going to give her a flyer.
Actually,
Really?
there's children here, and you're a dumbass.
Well, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. Hi, there's children here.
Yes. I'm a dumbass. Me too.
I guess we are, man.
It must be mom
Very
and
little.
action.
So what would they? I mean, never mind. I'm not even gonna even go. Seriously, what we're doing? 3 dudes come in right now. What are they gonna do? They're gonna wish for us to be in.
Yeah.
Come on now. Come on now. We protect the kids. I protect my kids. Shit. Yeah.
He's got something like an AK.
Something like that.
That's an AR. Oh, yeah, that's an AK.
I can't believe that lady, man. That's ridiculous.
You know, that's 1 in a million.
It is. Oh, here we go. Look. Oh, look at the baby. Look at the baby. That's the cutest thing I've ever seen. Let me see that little precious bundle of joy, man. Let me see that. Oh, that's cute. That's beautiful. We love kids. I got 2 myself, 1 and 2. They're half black. Now what? Absolutely.
So, be glad to accommodate you. We're happy to sit you and feed you. You just have to leave the firearm.
We gotta leave them outside?
What about concealed carry? Y'all remember that?
Sir?
What about concealed carry license? You remember that in here or no? Is that also? You don't.
I don't think he knows what concealed carry is.
Yes, sir. See y'all later.
Leave them outside. We'd be glad to serve y'all. We'd love to have you.
Can I take a picture of you over?
Absolutely. Absolutely you
What are
can.
y'all doing? Like, what's the point of
Represent our Second Amendment rights.
You lose them.
Yes, sir. We lose them if we don't use them.
Because
they did a duck in a box.
Someone's
Yep.
gonna do it.
Somebody's got to.
That's very good. Thank you. That's
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. Damn. That is crazy.
This Chili's is no longer the safest Chili's to eat at.
Nah, not really. Have a good day, sir.
You're saving me money.
Let's go to a dollar meal McDonald's. Excuse me.
Do that.
So we're at Chili's and they asked us to leave. Where else is that? Sonic? No.
Sonic? We did Sonic before?
Yeah.
Right there. Let's go back to Sonic.
Yeah, let's go to Sonic. Sonic likes us.
Yeah. They'll make the money.
Yeah, they'll make the money. Good stuff, good stuff. Over here at Chili's, guys. How you guys doing? Yeah, the cops are cool. Yeah.
Okay, total for number 1 will be 553, total for number 2 will be 648, total for number 3 is 757, number 4, 640, 659, number 6, 681, number 5, 1015, and number 7, 746. Anything else?
Yeah.
No, wait outside though.
Can we wait outside?
I'm not going to serve you all this.
Yeah, cancel the orders. All right, have a good day, sir. All right. Man, that's the second time in a row. Dang. Man, we can't do nothing. I feel like I'm a kid again. My mom won't let me do anything. I should have showed him the interview with the cop we just did. God dang.
That's a manager. I'm headed to Casa, guys.
Going home?
Yeah.
All right, brother.
I'm telling my daughter it's not safe to be here. We gotta go.
Oh, man. All right, man. I'm going to the house, dude. All right, yeah. No. What's the name's gonna give me a ride over there?
What idiots! What idiots! Overcompensating for their feeling of inferiority using assault rifles, and we allow them to do this? If I was sitting in a restaurant with my family and I saw a group of armed men with assault rifles walk in, you know what I would think? I would wonder, are these just crazy small penis guys that are compensating for their lack of manhood by displaying what they think is a tool of power? Or are they monsters? Are they another shooting spree waiting to happen? Are they terrorists? Do they have some ideological pursuit? Are they going to shoot the place up? That is not normal. It is not normal to walk around with a freaking assault rifle on your back. What is wrong with these people? How do they feel that the solution to life's problems is to walk around with a freaking assault rifle? What the hell? It makes me angry. It honestly makes me angry. This is now the society I live in. This is the society that I live. This is my country where people walk around with assault rifles on their back. I say these guys are terrorizing the public. They are terrorists. They are terrorizing the public. Just because they are comfortable around guns and they're comfortable having an assault rifle out in the open does not mean that everyone is comfortable with it. There is a reason why we came up with concealed carry laws. Because some guns make some people uncomfortable. It makes them frightened. It makes them scared. They don't feel safe. They feel the opposite. And the research backs up they have a reason to be scared. Study after study after study shows the more guns, the more death. Guns in the home equal a higher risk of being shot. If you own a gun in the home, empirical science has spoken, you are at a higher chance of being shot, you and your family members. Because there's more at play than just a random guy randomly breaking into your home. A child can find it. You can get depressed and shoot yourself. You can get angry during a domestic dispute and shoot a loved one. There's a million things that could go wrong. You could accidentally shoot yourself while cleaning it, which is something that even Marines have happened to them, and we hear about on the news. This is insane. We live in a society that has just decided that guns are just part of life, and that 12,000 American citizens dead every year is just part of life. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with us, America? Have we really gotten that selfish? Don't be creationists. Don't put your ideological and political beliefs before empirical science. Don't ignore the science. Don't ignore reality. Don't ignore empiricism. Guns. Having guns in society, having guns at the home puts you in more danger. It does not make you safer. And these gun lunatics will tell you anecdotal stories of one guy in Texas last year was able to gallantly defend his TV from a crackhead when the crackhead broke into his house. But for every one of those stories, there's 500 stories of death, homicide, or suicide. They've run the numbers. They've looked into this. And that's the reason why Congress is trying to stop the CDC from researching guns, because they know what the answer will be. The answer will be we need to get rid of the guns. Even if we do have guns, there should be control over who gets them. The idea that just civilians at large can just get guns with unrestricted access to them is ludicrous. It's preposterous. It's mass hysteria. Have you been to the peopleofwalmart.com? Have you been there? Have you seen what the lowest common denominator of society is? Do you know those people can get guns? Are you comfortable with that? Imagine if we just let anyone fly an airplane with no training, no background check, nothing, just get in there and fly it. We would have so much death and destruction. Planes would be flying into buildings and crashing into the ground. People would be dying left and right. And we would be shouting, why are we letting people just fly planes without any training whatsoever, without any rules or regulations or background checks? In order to get a pilot's license, you have to put in 40 hours. Minimum 40 hours of training. You have to prove to an instructor that you were competent and you were capable and you were qualified. And then they let you fly a plane. Guns should be no different. This is insanity. It's absolute madness. Think about the gun problem with airplanes again. We have one airplane that will go down once every year or two. And everybody will be up in arms. Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm scared of flying. I don't want to fly if airplanes are going to go down. We need to do something. Uncle Sam, save us! Congress, do something! And the politicians will get together and they'll analyze it and they'll say what went wrong. And the FAA will take the plane pieces back to a hangar and they'll try to reassemble the plane and try to figure out exactly what went wrong. And you'll hear about it on the news constantly 24/7. Here are the victims. Here are the victims' families. This is a horrible tragedy and we must stop it. We must prevent it from happening again. And the government will pass new legislation and be like, from now on, all airplanes need this new electrical component that will prevent that disaster from happening again. But when a mass shooting occurs, crickets, nothing. Think about it. Over 12,000 people die from shootings in this country. Less than 200 die each year from airplane crashes. We're living life in reverse. It's backwards, I tell you. It's backwards. This is insanity. Guns are something we should be scared of. Climate change is something that we should be scared of. We are talking about mass death and destruction, and we are doing nothing about it. But meanwhile, being scared to fly, the 1 in a million chance that you would ever be in a plane crash, motivates us to do things more than the actual, very real danger that another monster tomorrow will get another gun. And you better believe me, you better listen to my voice right now, because I am not making this up. That monster is now dead and gone, and he committed that atrocity, but there's another one right now. There is another one out there in our society right now, and he has guns, and he is planning another shooting. It's going to happen. It will happen. We are doing nothing to stop it.
Today, we have something extra special for you guys, and you guys will be some of the first people outside of our team and outside of Google to ever ride in it.
Oh, there it is. Oh, isn't that cute?
Go ahead and buckle up.
Okay, Annie, here we go. All right, Cody, let's go. There's no steering wheel in the way.
It was a big decision for us to go and start building our purpose-built vehicles for this. And really, they're prototype vehicles. They were a chance for us to explore what does it really mean to have a self-driving vehicle. But in the small amount of time we've been working on it, we have functional prototypes, and that's exciting.
It's really cool. It was like really kind of a space age experience.
Oh, okay. Hooray. We're like queens. Yeah.
You said relax. You don't need to do nothing. It knows when it needs to stop. It knows when it needs to go.
It actually rides better than my own car.
Yes, sure.
What she really liked was that it slowed down before it went around a curve and then accelerated
in the
curve. She's always trying to get me to do it that way.
That's the way I learned in a high school driver's ed.
So if I had a self-driving car, I could spend more time hanging out with my kids or helping them with their homework, even just tending to them, finding out how their day was and not having to wait till you get home and have dinner and all that. So it'll be good.
Human feeling of it is very well engineered, and it is very smooth. There's nothing that makes you feel the least bit threatened. It's impressive. I'm totally in love with this whole concept.
Our lives are made up of lots and lots of little things, and a lot of those little things for most people have to do with getting from place to place in order to connect and do things, be with people, go places that they need to go and do things. And so there's a big part of my life that's missing, and there's a big part of my life that a self-driving vehicle would bring back to me.
This is the first step for us, and it's really exciting to see the progress we've made. The opportunity for people to just move around and not worry about it, it's going to be incredibly empowering and incredibly powerful for people.
I love this!
Let's turn our focus to more positive things, more positive, forward, progressive things that are happening in our society. You can't always focus on the negative. You can't always focus on what is wrong. Sometimes you have to start thinking about all the good that is still out there. Despite our problems, we, humanity, is moving forward towards the singularity at a breakneck speed. Barclay, a group of banker technocrats, has issued a report that says, and here's the thing, I've got it right here. they are downgrading the investments in utility companies, electrical power utility companies, right? They're basically saying that in 4 years that's going to be a horrible investment because they say in 4 years, within 4 years, the price of solar photovoltaic will be reduced so much, will go down so much, that it will be cheaper than getting power off the grid. And then everybody, it's called the snowball effect. And Edison Electric wrote a report a couple of years ago that said that this was going to happen. The snowball effect basically means that once the price of solar photovoltaics goes so low that everybody will choose to swap over. And because everybody chooses to swap over, the price goes even lower because of the way that manufacturing scales up. When you start mass producing in order to meet demand, the price goes even lower. So it's a snowball effect. Because the price is so low, they sell more, which causes the price to go lower. And there's no way that the utility companies can keep up. There's no way that the coal plant can keep up. There is no way that the nuclear power plants can keep up. Solar is here. Solar is set to dominate the market. Solar is the future of the power grid. It's going to happen. Remember, you heard it here first on the People's Radio. Remember, 4 or 5 years from now, when solar is absolutely dominating the market, remember, I told you. I told you. Moving on. President Obama recently nailed what is wrong with our political system. He nailed it. It is refreshing to hear a president so in touch with reality because I lived through the Bush years. I remember what it was like having an oblivious jackass in the White House that had no idea what was going on in the real world. Recently at a fundraiser, President Obama said, and I'm going to quote him, "You'll hear if you watch the nightly news or you read the newspapers that, well, there's gridlock. Congress is broken. Approval ratings for Congress are terrible, and there's a tendency to say a plague on both your houses. But the truth of the matter is, the problem is Congress is very specific. We have a group of folks in the Republican Party who have taken over, who are so ideologically rigid, who are so committed to an economic theory that says if folks at the top do very well, then everybody else is somehow going to do well, who deny the science of climate change, who don't think making investments in early childhood education makes sense, who have repeatedly blocked raising a minimum wage, so if you work full-time in this country, you're not living in poverty, who scoff at the notion that we might have a problem with women not getting paid for doing the same work that men are doing. They, so far at least, have refused to budge on bipartisan legislation to fix our immigration system, despite the fact that every economist who's looked at it says it's going to improve our economy, cut our deficits, help spawn an entrepreneurship, and alleviate great pain from millions of families and across the country. So the problem is not that the Democrats are overly ideological, because the truth of the matter is that the Democrats in Congress have consistently been willing to compromise and reach out to the other side. There are no radical proposals coming from the left. When we talk about climate change, we talk about how do we incentivize through the market greater investments in clean energy. When we talk about immigration reform, there's no wild-eyed romanticism. We say we're going to be tough on the borders, but let's also make sure that the system works to allow families to stay together. When we talk about taxes, we don't say we're going to have rates in the 70% or 90%. When it comes to income like existed here 50, 60 years ago, we say let's just make sure that those of us who have been incredibly blessed by this country are giving back to kids so that they're getting a good start in life, so that they can get good early childhood education, health care. We didn't suddenly impose some wild, crazy system. All we said was let's make sure everybody has insurance. And that made the other side go nuts. The simple idea that in the wealthiest nation on earth, nobody should go bankrupt because somebody in their family gets sick working within a private system. So when you hear a false equivalence that somehow, well, Congress is just broken, it is not true. What's broken right now is a Republican Party that repeatedly says no to proven, time-tested solutions. Your president said that. And I agree completely. He nailed it. He nailed it. That's a good sign. It's good that basically the leader of the Democrat Party, the leader of I guess the Democrat Party is really the only left liberal movement we have in America. I mean, we have the Green Party, and I support them. I support what they do. But the Democrat Party is it. We live in a two-party system, and it's nice to see that basically the high up, I mean, it doesn't get any higher than the presidency, folks. It's commander-in-chief. I mean, come on. I mean, we don't have a super president above the president. So for all intents and purposes, the president is the leader of the Democratic Party, and it's good to see him acknowledging that the problem is not with the Democrats. The problem right now is with the Republicans, the ideological Republicans, the Republicans that are sticking their fingers in their ears and saying, la, 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 I don't hear the science about climate change, la, 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 I don't hear the science about firearms, la, 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 I do not believe in the theory of evolution. These people live in an alternate reality. Jon Stewart calls it the Fox News bullshit mountain, I think. Speaking of an alternate reality. This is from Reuters. Angry mothers meet the EPA over Roundup. They have found some Roundup in some breast milk, and now moms that are anti-GMO, anti-herbicide are pissed off. Now let's talk about what the science has to say, and let's make this very, very clear. Roundup's the best we got. It is the safest we got. Period. It's safer than organic farming. Organic farmers also use pesticides and herbicides and chemicals. Do not let them tell you that they don't, because they do. An organic farmer uses more sulfur per acre than a traditional industrialized farm would ever consider using for their entire farm. Do not think for a moment that organic is a safer alternative. It is not. The science has never shown that to be true, ever. From Reuters, questions about Roundup, the world's most popular herbicide, are on the agenda at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Tuesday when regulators meet with a group of mothers, scientists, and environmentalists and others who say that they are worried about Roundup residues in breast milk. The meeting near Washington, D.C. follows a 5-day phone call blitz of EPA offices by a group called Moms Across America. The enemy, they're anti-science. Demanding that the EPA pay attention to their demands for a recall of Roundup. They're demanding that the EPA pay attention to their fake fears that they've just conjured up in their head. This is a poison, and it's in our food, and now they've found it in breast milk, said Zen Honeycutt, founder of Moms Across America. It is not a poison. Roundup is not processed by the human body. It just goes through the human body. That's all I'm going to say about that. And even Reuters goes on to explain it's been extensively studied and has a long track record of being safe and effective. The use in agriculture has jumped dramatically since the mid-1990s after Monsanto started introducing crops genetically engineered to withstand the spray of Roundup so farmers could more easily kill weeds without harming their crops. It's sprayed on the most of the corn and soybean crops in the United States, as well as sugar, beets, canola, and other crops. Last year, the EPA agreed to actually raise the tolerance levels permitted in the food because the agency said that the toxicity data and studies it reviewed shows that it is not a cancer risk and it is safe at the approved levels. So remember, science has spoken and science has said that this stuff is safe and the current levels in our food is safe. But that doesn't stop these anti-vaccine, anti-GMO, anti-science crazy people who think that they can just make up their own science. This is a good opinion piece on Forbes. And I actually don't have the time to get into it on the show because we're coming to a close, but I want you, the listener, to go check this out. If you want to know where the debate stands on GMOs, you need to go to Forbes. The title of the article is 2,000 plus reasons why GMOs are safe to eat and environmentally sustainable. This guy, John Entine, lays out study after study after study, peer-reviewed paper after peer-reviewed paper after peer-reviewed paper that shows why we know GMOs are safe and they are environmentally responsible. And I hope to actually get to more of that and more about GMOs on the next episode of the People's Radio. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, call your representative, call your senator, and tell them to do something about guns!